Aquatics here in a beautiful garden in Sussex, working on another pond construction job. So I thought I would show you some of the progress we've made so far.
This is Dave. Say hello, Dave.
Hello.
Everyone needs a Dave on site like this. So there's an existing pond, quite a nice one. It had been well put in and well thought out. It's a good size, but the briefing for this is it wasn't quite big enough, and it certainly wasn't deep enough for the koi that have come out of here. So the surround is coming away. The old cascade that was in place has been removed. The filtration is being updated, and the pond is being increased in volume and area, and most importantly in depth. So we're 3 days into the job right now, and we've made pretty good progress. I'll show you the before pictures. The cascade was really a very large rockery in that muddy patch over there. And that was a whole day yesterday of digging and removing all of the rubble and the rocks and the soil from there. And then today it's been a case of breaking up all of the surround, which is kind of an 80s style crazy paving with old Indian sandstone. That's being removed. There's a concrete plinth beneath it, which is fantastic for me to build up the new edging stones, although a part of this concrete plinth is going to have to get broken away to increase the volume so I can dig out a bit more. The new edging is probably going to be a natural York stone or a West Sussex sandstone sort of finish. But as with everything, these kind of plans evolve organically, so we shall not stick to too strict a plan and see how it goes. So as the job progresses, I'll keep you updated with what's going on. It'll probably be a couple of weeks before the exciting things start happening. So we're a little further than a week from my last update on this job, and I just wanted to show you what's happened since then. So the hole has been fully excavated. The pond was originally approximately 1,800 gallons in volume, and it's been enlarged now to around 8,000 gallons, so quite a considerable increase in volume. I'll find out more accurately once it's filled. It's all been hand dug. It's been a lot of skips, a lot of hard work between the two of us, but you're not going to get that detail doing it with a digger. So by hand was the way to go here, and it's been quite nice sort of clay to dig, so it's been very easy to sculpt. We've lined the base and the sides with a layer of builder sand just to cushion out any imperfections, and the next job now is to put the pond underlay and then the pond liner. In preparation, I've got a couple of tanks of water, about 3,000 gallons of water here, waiting to drop into the pond to get the liner to drop down quickly. So a lot to do today, but progress. So this is the pond underlay which has gone in. This is a geotextile, a specific pond fleece, 250 GSM. So it's a nice heavy duty, and there's quite a few layers of this. There's no point in scrimping. A pond liner is only as good as how you prepare the ground. So as I say, we've got layers of builder sand, the original pond fleece that was under the old lining, and the new fleece. There's quite a few layers, and this is going to provide an excellent cushion to the new membrane. So after the pond fleece, the next stage is the pond liner, and you can see here behind me that we've dropped the pond liner in. The idea here is not to pay too much attention to the creases inside the pond itself, but to try and stretch the liner over the top of the excavation and just weigh it down with a few stones or other heavy objects to hold it in place. And we'll start to pump a bit of the water into the pond, and that'll help to pull the liner down into all the right places. And if we keep filling and stopping in certain increments and then adjusting the liner and begin to pleat and fold in certain areas, we'll get the neatest end result. Good morning. So I'm a couple of weeks further on into the project, and I thought I would show you how far I've got on the progress. So the pond's really taking shape now. I've pretty much completed the stonework all around the circumference of the pond, so I'm just about to get above water level. So the stone I'm using here is what's called New York stonework. It's a combination here of some what's called guillotined stone walling. So it's been cropped, hasn't got any unnatural smooth cut edges. Where it's been guillotined, it creates that nice ribbon edge. Great for wall building and you know, fantastic for pond use. It's a little bit uniform, so I like to break it up with also some York natural crazy paving. Now this I can cut up, I can split, I can break. It's nice to have a few thinner pieces just to break up the sort of uniformity of the slightly thicker guillotined walling. And then you might see in places some even thinner pieces. Some of that's a combination of the splittings, the thinner pieces of stone that I have made from breaking up some of the rock I've bought, and some of it is also that the original pond here had an old sandstone, Indian sandstone surround, and in lifting that I've kept some of the cleaner pieces, the thinner pieces, and used them as well. I think it's good to have a range of sizes and thicknesses of stone. I think it's a bit boring if it's the same size. Now I'm just beginning the planting zones, the marginal zones. You can see these areas here. These retaining walls will be a few inches below water level, and it will allow me to backfill with shingle in the areas here in these little pockets, of which there's going to be 3 over here, a small one down here, and then a couple over here as well. And these will provide ample space for marginal planting. The plants can be bare rooted. You haven't got plastic baskets sort of balanced on ledges and blowing into the pond. But also, as this is going to be a mixed fish pond with some koi carp as well, it's important that the larger fish can't really get to the plants. So by having just a shallow layer of water above that stone collar, it's going to help to prevent the koi from actually getting into the base of the plants and rummaging around, causing potential problems. This lintel here, which is spanning the pond, is going to be the beginnings of a bridge. There was an original bridge here made out of this piece of sheet steel. I've cut the edges to create a bit of a curve, which is going to help to tie in with the rest of the pond edging and the curving. There wasn't a central support originally. I've just added this really as a bit of belt and braces, just to make sure there's no flex and no movement. Across the bridge. And you can see that the stream, sort of cascade area, has been scraped out of the ground, and that will give me an idea when I have completed the stonework around the edge, and I can then start to build on the stream. That's going to go into that area. And the raised terrace, the seating area over here in front of us, is beginning to take shape. So another day or two, all of the planting zones will be complete, and then I can come out and I can actually start to do the natural stone edging. Couple of important things: an overflow. A lot of people fail to put overflows into pond, and it's always a good idea, if you can, to be able to regulate the depth. So rather than just having a bit of pipe sort of, you know, plopped over the top of the liner, which you quite frequently see, and that does work as a crude overflow. But the issue with that is that obviously water can seep out in the cracks and the gaps between the paving at the top. So ideally you want to have a proper overflow, which is going through the liner with a tank connector, and then from here we can put up a 90-degree elbow and a little leaf guard on top, and that will allow me to calibrate and control the depth. I can tilt this elbow around and articulate it if I want to drop the level slightly, or I can prop it up or even extend that with some pipe work if we want to get maximum depth. And that will allow me to set the depth to the desired level and to have just the right amount of stonework sort of popping out above the surface. So here I've used an Awaza Tradux or Tradux tank connector. It's a nice simple heavy duty sort of threaded connector with a big rubber seal on the back, and then again for belt and braces I've also glued the front section with something called wet water sticky stuff, which is a sort of a black gunge, and then on here there'll be a threaded elbow, as I say, with a leaf guard, and that handily drains away off into some drainage which is here in the garden. The two pipes you can see coming out here, one is going to be the feed to the filtration system and one is the feed to the stream. We've got two separate pumps here, one for life support and one for the stream, and that means that one can turn off the stream if you want to without interrupting the filtration and the life support. The pipework then is concealed behind all of the stonework. We've got the pump at one end in the deepest end of the pond, and the return from the filtration is in the shallower section, and the pond gradually slopes down all the way down to this deeper area, and that means that much of the particulate matter, the silt, the debris is going to naturally gravitate towards the deeper section and get pulled up by that pump. And by having the inlet and the outlet at opposite ends of the pond, you're circulating the entire volume of the pond more efficiently, which is very important. Now, the whole garden slopes here. Ideally, it would have been nice to have concealed the filtration system, which is a gravity flow back into the pond, somewhere up there at the top of the garden. But there wasn't really anywhere for it to go, so the filter tank is going down here. And actually, the level is slightly lower than pond level. What that means is that the filter itself is slightly raised on a concrete plinth. Well, that's easy, but the return is a 4-inch pipe. And to be able to conceal that 4-inch pipe so it's not laying above ground level and still have that natural gradient to flow back into the pond, I've essentially fitted almost like a bottom drain. I've put a 4-inch tank connector through the liner just down here above shelf level, and this is the return from the filtration system. And that means that, as you can see in this trench, all of the solvent weld 4-inch pipe work is going to be concealed below ground level. In the same trench, I'm also running the inlet from the filter, so the pipework that comes from the pond is running through this trench and will be entering the UVC and then the filtration system, and it will also be a convenient trench as a conduit for one of the electrics from the pump. There's also going to be a third pump in this area, as my client has got a small fountain stone water feature which is going to be standing in the shallows here, so the cable will run through that trench also. I'll complete the rest of the planting, make a start on the edging, and I will update you a little later on, but it's coming on. It's been a little while since I've posted anything about my recent project, the pond build I've posted on. It's been a good month of progress since I've posted. I'm pretty excited because I'm nearly finished now, and I just wanted to show you some pictures of where we're at the moment and run through some of the features of the pond. So fast forward a month, all of the stonework around the edge has been completed. You can see all the stonework started up on the shelving and has ended up in a nice Yorkstone edged pond. I still haven't completed the stream yet, so I've probably got another 3 or 4 days left to complete the stream over here. But today's been a good day, draining all the pond down, getting rid of all of the mucky water, putting some plants in the planting areas. Going to get refilled with some clean water, and then I can crack on completing the stream. So if you've seen any of my previous ponds, the way I like to do the planting is, rather than put plants in plastic baskets and balanced on shelves, I like to purpose-build marginal zones, retainers with stonework that are backfilled with gravel and then planted up with marginal plants. Keeps it nice and neat and tidy, and these areas contain the plants and help to stop them from going too mad. But it's much nicer aesthetically than seeing the plastic baskets, and it's a lot more stable. There's nothing that's going to fall into the pond. We've got a selection of different marginals here, some Typhalax mani, one of the smaller varieties of reed mace. We've got some pickerel plants, Pondateria here, lovely purple plants and late flowering in the season. Some evergreen dwarf Acorus, the standard green variety, and then the golden variety, and this little charm here, Hatinia, which is not everyone's cup of tea, but I like it. It does tend to grow pretty rampant, but again, contained within this zone here, it's just going to fill the planting zone and act as sort of underplanting in amongst all the various Acora, so that'll look nice when it's filled the planting zones. The bridge has worked out really nicely. The original bridge was just straight lines, straight edges, and I was able to cut the sheet steel plate and get some nice curves in the bridge there, which has worked very well. And with a bit of belt and braces, if you remember when I showed you before the stonework was on, we've got a lintel underneath there as well, just to add a bit more strength. Carrying on with the plants, we've got a lovely variegated Acorus and a Lobelia cardinalis, which I'm afraid the slugs and snails love this, but it's a beautiful plant if you can get it established. Lovely, tall, striking, bright red flowers, and again some underplanting here of some Veronica brook lime. This is going to raft up at the surface and provide some floating areas for the fish to hide beneath, and just help to break up some of the stonework a little bit. Again, a couple more planters over here, some more pickerel, a bit more Hatinia, and again some more Lobelia cardinalis and some more Typhlox marley. Now all of these plants are reasonably, small to medium sized plants, nothing that's going to get too large or out of scale for the pond. I think that's really important when you're planting up ponds. You want plants that are appropriate in size to the size of the pond. Now this is a big pond, but anything too large is just going to look untidy. It's quite a formal design, so we want to keep all the plants looking nice and neat. This is a nice seating area here, which has worked very well. So there'll be a table and chairs up here and space to put a few potted plants, again just to break up the stonework a little bit. Nice use of some different material here with the gravel rather than some more York stone. Nice to walk on as well. Some features: an overflow, very important. This is a proper overflow with a tank connector going through the pond liner, and it culminates here with an elbow which is articulated, so you can lift it and drop it, which gives us 3 or 4 inches sort of calibration to alter the flow. So I want to get the depth. I want to get the depth set so it's 3 or 4 inches above the collar of stonework here for the marginal plants. Too much water above this, and it means some of the fish are going to be able to swim over, and some of the bigger fish are going to rummage around in the gravel and mess it up. And of course, too shallow and it's exposed, and it's going to reduce the surface area of the pond. So 3 or 4 inches of water is bang on, and I can calibrate and set that by articulating that elbow. So it's nice to have that bit of control. And then over here, the stream, the final spill stone into the pond, which again will be planted up. A lot of these nooks and crannies are going to be planted up with bits of mind your own business and other plants which will break up the stonework and help to soften it. But it's going to be nice to see this running. So give it another few days and I will post an update. So we're filling up the pond now. Got a big blue bowser you can just see in the background there, which holds about 5,000 gallons. Pre-filled in preparation, but it's still not going to be enough to get this filled right up. Filtration system has been commissioned. You can see that flow of water over there in the centre of the screen. That's the 4-inch outlet, because of the position of the filter in relation to the level of the pond. And as it's a gravity discharge filter, the outlet has had to be put through the liner via a 4-inch tank connector below water level. Just switched on the stream to give it a dummy run. As I say, it's not complete yet, but it gives an idea of the sort of flow that's coming down there. Now all of the kit that's gone into this is made by Awaza. We've got 2 separate pumps here. One pump is delivering water for the stream. This is an Awaza Aquamax Eco 17,500. And as you can see, it delivers a pretty good flow. This is all using 1.5-inch heavy-duty pipework, so trying to be as unrestricted as possible. You could use 2-inch, but to be honest, on that sort of flow, 1.5 inch is sufficient. Both pumps down in the depth of the pond here. Now the stream pump is relatively close to the spill stone. It's normally recommended that the inlet is as far away from the outlet as possible, but because the inlet, the pump for the stream, isn't providing any filtration, it's purely there for the stream, it doesn't really matter if it's as close as it is, and that saves running lengths of pipework and cable within the pond, which is unsightly. But what I have done is I've made sure that the filtration pump, which is the second pipe you can see there in the centre of the screen, that is also down in the depths at this end of the pond, ensuring that inlet is a decent distance away from the return from the filter from the outlet over here. And the pond has been dug deliberately so that the whole lot slopes gradually down to the deeper section here, so that any sediment build-up is going to settle down in the depths, and more of it's going to get picked up by the pump and deposited in the filter. I shall show you the filter next. Now you can see exposed still is the 4-inch pipework from the filtration. This is all solvent weld running underground here. There's a couple of conduits in there for cables and things as well. And this is the filtration system. This is a Screenmatic 140,000, which is the biggest in the range. So we've bolted onto the side a Bitron 110 UV. Personally, I prefer to use a slightly larger unit on a pond of this volume. As I say, the volume is estimated at about sort of 7,500 gallons ish. According to a Waza spec, the 110 watt UV will be plenty, and I'm sure it will be because the pond is pretty lightly stocked. But I always prefer the belt and braces approach, and I would, if this doesn't work, and the reason this is on is because the UV was used in my client's original pond, so it would be foolish not to use it, but the filtration system itself is new. If it doesn't work and the pond does go green, then we've got the option of going for a larger unit. They do a 180 eco and also a 240 watt eco, and that will also bolt on directly onto this filter. This is a great system. It's an updated third sort of series of the Screenmatic filtration. The original one years ago was something called a ScreenX. Then they moved on to the Screenmatic, and this is the Screenmatic 2. What's great about this is water passes over a fine sieve, which has a sensor, and when the sieve is soiled, automatically the sensor will switch on and the screen will rotate. I can manually do so. And any debris which is collected on here will end up in this collection cup, and it can be removed and flicked off. And that means that the bulk of the filtration is operating pretty clean, which keeps maintenance nice and low. If I move this, underneath here you'll see a series, loads and loads of foams. Quite basic, but foam is a very efficient filtration media. Holds an awful lot of debris, has a massive surface area for biological filtration activity for beneficial bacteria. And when it comes to cleaning, you've got a simple discharge drain, which I've connected up directly down here into a 4-inch waste pipe that disappears off down into drainage. So for cleaning the filtration system, and later on when this is actually dirty, I'll demonstrate the proper clean, but that'll be a few weeks before it needs a clean. They give you a little cleaning tool here, 2 little lugs that connect up with the holes on top of the filter baffles here. And to simulate a clean, all you would do is you would push down. Ideally you need 2 hands for that. Blue one's a bit easier. And that would release some of the silt and the debris inside the foams, and you would open up the discharge and flush off all the dirty water. So it's relatively low maintenance and easy to do so. This filtration system is going to take a good 3 to 4 weeks to complete its cycle and to build up enough beneficial bacteria before I reintroduce the fish. The fish are held up in this holding tank over here. We've got a mixture of just koi and goldfish, 4 or 5 sort of 12 to 14 inch koi, and perhaps 10 to 15 adult goldfish. So it's a pretty low stock for a pond of this volume. Another little feature of this pond is this statue and what will be a bird bath. Originally this was in the pond as a water feature. Not particularly accessible for cleaning and maintenance. The little feature pump that's included, they tend to clog more frequently in a pond environment, so much better suited for a pebble pool. And I think it looks quite nice just sat on the side. This border will be planted up eventually. And the little pockets of mind your own business, this little green plant here, which is a lovely little thing, will end up creeping over and covering all of this damp gravel surface. So what will eventually happen is that the water from the feature here will just percolate down through into a nice carpet of soft green moss. It's an attractive feature, and it gives its own little sound as well when you're sat in this area. There's a great flow coming down from the stream. Fills the spillstone nicely. It's a nice soft sound when the pond is filled up. I mean, it's got another 8 to 10 inches, maybe a foot before it's completely filled, and that will soften that sound. The water will be splashing and falling directly onto water rather than splashing on that little collar of stone down there, and that will soften the noise a little more. This is I would call it more of a stream than a cascade. Little areas here where you get a nice natural sound as the water bubbles over. And this will be filled up with more stones and gravel, and there'll be a couple of drops further back. But a nice natural sound. So it's been a long day coming, but finally I've completed this build. I'm going to show you around and see what you think.
Well, thanks very much for watching. Thank you for following this journey with me. It's been a long one, taken a fair bit longer than I was expecting. But the results I'm very pleased with. So is my client. It's the end of this one. On to the next one.